Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 73 today for the Chinese Grand Prix in Season 5. For the very first time on this game and series, we are returning to Shanghai. It's almost like a new circuit really to us. We haven't taken these brand new era of cars out on this circuit yet. I remember we had some fun on last year's game returning to Shanghai, but with this new crop of cars, maybe some better following and racing, it could be an even better return, and I'm hoping for some decent racing. But it's also a stab into the unknown, how quick our AI rivals are going to be, and how we will fare with the handling model on F1 22 around the Shanghai International Circuit. So very exciting times ahead for this episode, but we've had a banging start to this season with the first two rounds at Albert Park and then the Sakir circuit last time out for the Bahrain Grand Prix. If you haven't checked that one out, be sure to, because that was an intense roller coaster of a race, and the last 10 laps were literal action-packed, left, right and centre. Some amazing battles all the way through the top 10 really, apart from the race winner Leclerc, who dominated that Grand Prix. But after him, every position from P2 to P10 was contested and did change hands at some point. It's still very early on in this season to really see some patterns, but that was the first sign of Mercedes emerging as one of the true frontrunners of this season, and they continue that upgrading into this episode. As you can see clearly, they take a small little march on the rest of us in that very tightly packed kind of top 6 arrangement. But below, the more interesting development are both Ferrari and Andretti bringing the same rate of upgrades to Shanghai. Aston Martin also with a minor upgrade as they try and bridge the gap to Porsche Williams, but Ferrari pretty much now right there with Renault on the cusp of kind of getting into that battle. So Ferrari are actually going up the grid. Whether they can actually convert that into some proper points, they only have 1 point to their name so far in this season, but this could be the start of seeing Ferrari maybe nipping at the heels of those consistent points in the top 10. It is always just going to be, though, a very difficult one for any of the teams there in that battle, because the amount of teams we have vying for the 10 positions simply does not add up. The maths doesn't maths, and so it means it's a very difficult thing to manage, and that's why consistency is going to be a big factor in this season. I feel we've already seen that somewhat with Sebastian Vettel. Despite having a challenging Bahrain Grand Prix, he still managed to actually come back through for some decent points, and that's why he's level on points with Leclerc in the Drivers' Championship right now. We're just 1 point behind them both, so yeah, we need to try and keep it up and hopefully not have any blunders. And so far so good. 2 races down, no engine failures. Feeling good about that, feeling good about the Honda power. I hope I just haven't jinxed it just then by saying that, but yeah, one can hope. And we're also going to have to hope for a little bit more pace on our second run in Q1, because that first lap really wasn't that quick at all. To be fair, first lap in anger around Shanghai with this crop of cars, this new handling model in F1 22 compared to last year's game when we last went out on this circuit in the My Team series. So, getting to grips with how early I can get on the throttle, how aggressive we can turn in with a near enough maxed out car, and gaining, about 4 tenths, 3 of those tenths alone were just on the acceleration off that long banked right-hander in the last sector, and that gets us up into P12 and ultimately through into the next session, which is all that really matters, to be fair, but still some time on the table to find clearly to Yuki Tsunoda, our teammate. But Mercedes put down a marker off the back of that dominant display for Leclerc around Bahrain with a 1-2 there in Q1, and disappointment, I guess, on the other side of the spectrum for Mick Schumacher. The Ferrari does get knocked out, whereas his teammate Verstappen up in P11, kind of where you expect the Ferrari cars to be aiming for now with their performance on the R&D chart. So it's going to be tight though. Red Bull look a bit quicker there as well, both of them up in the top 6, I think that was, in Q1. So Red Bull might be, slowly getting to terms with their new car this season, getting up to speed both Lando and Alexander Albon. So let's see now into this second qualifying session. And as always, as we go on through Saturday in this series, the car feeling better and better, the track is getting better in terms of grip and rubber being laid down by all these cars going round, and getting quicker, and we just felt more confident. I think in Sector 1 especially, able to, really send it into some of those high-speed corners. In the last sector as well, I think having a bit more confidence on the throttle pickup. Now harsh on the brakes, down to the hairpin, first gear to get the nose turned in, then you climb up the gears, try and be easy on the exit, because that exit actually catches you out as you have to try and move the car quickly from left to right, and then through the final left-hander to the line, across the line. What is it going to be for us? It's going to be P13, and we are knocked out in Q2 for the first time in a long while in this series. It used to be a formality, not anymore it seems. Around Shanghai, the AI have come out on top, and I have not. Even though I actually went considerably quicker than my Q1 lap time, everyone else just sped up even more so than me, and I've been caught out there, along with Sebastian Vettel, to be fair. So, two of us in the top three of the championship knocked out. The only man remaining is the man on top in Q2, Leclerc. So he's going to be massively boosted in confidence by that, as both Haas cars make it through. Both McLaren, Mercedes, Piastri, and Gasly, both Red Bulls this time do get through. That's a massive thing, because usually we've only had one Red Bull. We had one Red Bull make it through at Bahrain. Both didn't make it through at Australia. So ultimately, the Red Bulls picking up pace has actually come to the hurt of myself and Sebastian Vettel. And to be fair, both me and him probably are going to be disappointed, because we could have done much better, because we've been slower than our respective teammates and slower than the Ferrari of Verstappen. But that could also just show the signs of the Scuderia improving. So we're on the back foot here. First time in a long while, we're going to cut qualifying short and go to the grid, because this is where our Saturday ends then, outside the top 10 for tomorrow's Grand Prix.
It's time again then for Formula One in Shanghai. Northwest of the thriving city of over 24 million people is a circuit that first featured in the championship calendar back in 2004. It played host to Formula One's 1000th Grand Prix back in 2019. We start a lap here at Shanghai with the long, difficult right-handers of turns 1 and 2, the first of 16 corners that make up this 3.3-mile circuit. The incredibly long back straight provides the best passing opportunity of the lap, with speeds in excess of 200 miles per hour before we head into the braking zone of turn 14. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Drugovich, Sainz, Pierre Gasly and Albon, Tsunoda, Oscar Piastri, Norris and Max Verstappen, Vettel, the owner-driver, Sergio Perez and Fernando Alonso, Ricciardo, Bottas, they've taken a grid penalty, Liam Lawson and Mick Schumacher, Magnussen, Stroll, Ocon and Nico Hülkenberg rounds off the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
So the Silver Arrows seem to be back. If you watch that grid sequence, a front row lockout for the first time in a long while. Not even on this game, in real life as well, to be honest. But yeah, looks like Leclerc and Russell, they're coming good at the right time, in the right moment there. But close behind, the likes of Felipe Drugovich, Carlos Sainz doing a great job. And Tsunoda, not too bad, but showing that maybe the car just isn't as quick as teams around us, around this circuit. But I think personally, for me, there is more pace to find in the race. It is a brand new circuit for all intents and purposes for this game, and so to me I think it's just a bit of rust of getting around Shanghai in the quickest way possible, and through the race I'm hoping lap after lap I'm getting quicker and quicker, but the same thing could be said of other drivers. But one thing I do want to point out is being outside the top 10 might have a bit of a strategic advantage here of the strategy going from the soft tyres to the mediums, apparently, according to my engineer. So you'll see a lot of us around outside the top 10 all starting on softs. Everyone in the top 10 starting on mediums because they burned out all their fresh softs, actually qualifying through all 3 sessions. So kind of like the old school way when F1 had the tyre rule about carrying it over into Q3. Funny how it works like that with the tyre allocation now. It's worked out that, again, the outside the top 10 may have a slight advantage at the beginning of this Grand Prix with the softer compound, and actually maybe later on if we're on mediums and others are on the hard compound tyre. And although the hards did seem like a very good race tyre for us around Bahrain, I think around Shanghai you're going to find it very tough to get the front tyres working, and as it is a front limited circuit. So that's going to be an area of concern. So I think I have a good feeling about this strategy. We just have to make the most of the softs though in the first stint, absolutely. But in total opposite to that spirit of wanting to be on the front foot then to start this Grand Prix, we overshoot the pit box, getting a bit too eager with the throttle pedal just at the end there. So we're pushed back as we're reset. So we've got a bit more work to do off these 5 red lights. But here we go, round 3, the return to Shanghai for the Chinese Grand Prix. Lights out and away we go. It is a fantastic start for Sebastian Vettel, but he gets boxed in between Verstappen and Lando Norris. The Red Bull on the mediums getting pushed out wide. We're going to try and follow Vettel through on the inside line, but just taking it easy because this corner, this sequence of corners can really catch you out. Loads of 3 wides happening as Vettel tries to go round the outside of not 1 but 2. He gets it. He gets Piastri and Tsunoda. We get Perez and Norris, and now we'll look to try and get our own teammate as well. Piastri with the big dive bomb. Tsunoda comes in, makes contact with Max Verstappen though, and in all that chaos we've only ended up in P11. Unfortunately, wanted to make a bit better of a showing of Sector 1, but getting caught up in the middle of battles and taking some avoiding action to make sure we have no damage at the start of this Grand Prix. Unlike, I think, unfortunately, Tsunoda, with that heavy contact with Verstappen, I wouldn't be surprised if he has slight wing damage as we see up the road, Russell up into P1. He's jumped his teammate who was on pole position. Speaking of teammate, we're going to get past ours and get up into P10. Tsunoda real slow through that right-hander, so I think he does have some damage. But yeah, confirmation, Russell has jumped Leclerc off the start. He's the one leading the way. Leclerc second, Drogovic remains in third, Sainz fourth place, Albon, the 2 McLarens, Verstappen flying high in P8 in the Ferrari, followed by Vettel, and then myself looking to try and stick with Vettel and Verstappen, my 2 fellow soft tyre runners, as there's plenty of battles going on behind. A few 3 wide moments, I think, as Ricciardo battles Bottas and Nico Hulkenberg getting stuck in P17. Pretty high for the Aston Martin team, being the lowest car on the R&D chart, doing pretty well for himself. And 3 wide between the 2 Andrettis and the Renault of Sergio Perez. Lawson trying to go round the outside of his more senior teammate Fernando Alonso to the inside for the next left-hander down the crest. This is fantastic racing from the black and yellow cars, all 3 of them, as the 2 teams have a very similar palette for their livery. And Schumacher getting stuck in as well as he tries to make the most of the soft compound tyre as well. I mean, loads of these cars on softs, but you know, unfortunately they're not doing themselves favours by infighting that much. And it's a contrast to myself, Vettel and Verstappen, all of us in the top 10 now, and now have a free shot at attacking all the guys ahead of us on medium tyres. But oh, Verstappen slow! Verstappen slows up and Vettel nearly makes contact with him. He gets held up a bit. Now here's our chance to have a go at Vettel, but Verstappen is out the Grand Prix. We squeeze Vettel through the left-hander, but he keeps his wits about him, keeps his nose in, and instead actually squeezes us out. Lando Norris tries to get involved in the Red Bull round the outside. It was nearly 3 wide through the banking, and we find ourselves once again locked into a battle with Seb Vettel for old time's sake. We go to the right, go to the left then, as Vettel is stern with his defence, but you know, as it has been for the last 2 seasons as teammates in the Audi operation, it's always been a pretty respectful and good battle, and will continue to be here at Shanghai in Season 5. Even in different teams, we'll continue that going as we now have another look on the inside. We're battling through the final corner into the first corner of the next lap. We're on the inside, but we're trying to get the car a bit wide to try and go across the racing line. Not like that, though, as we make 2 mistakes, as 2 times now in the first 2 turns we have to go opposite lock as our car gets caught up on the curb. And so that's going to be probably a lesson learnt now from now on, not to even try and flirt with those curbs in the first 2 turns, because that would have been a slam dunk overtake if it wasn't for those 2 oversteer mistake moments. So we're going to have to go again. Lap 6, fake to the right, go to the left once again. This time we brake early though, looking for the cutback to switch it from left to right to get down the inside of Vettel as he goes wide, but we've got a bit of oversteer to manage as well to keep the car going in a straight line to maintain P8. But after a while we've finally got it, but that was probably a bit more work than it should have been, to be honest. We could have got it done a lot earlier if it wasn't for those 2 mistakes, but we are ahead now and can make the most of the clean air. Meanwhile, behind, Lando Norris is close back. Liam Lawson in the Andretti high in P11 ahead of Schumacher, Fernando Alonso, Perez, Bottas caught in a battle, and then there's a larger gap to Hulkenberg down in P16, but doing a pretty good job actually to be ahead of both Porsche Williams cars, to be fair to him. And then at the sharp end, it's all Mercedes. 1-2 still for Russell Leclerc, Drugovich, Sainz, and then Albon down to P5 before you get the 2 McLarens of Gasly and Piastri. So all is the same in the top 7, but Leclerc pressurizes Russell into a mistake. And could this be the start of a change? And Leclerc getting back into the P1 he got on the Saturday, as Schumacher now has a horrendous crash in Sector 3. 3-car pile-up caught out there as it was, I think, one of the Andretti's caught, coming off circuit back onto the track in the most dangerous fashion ever, and that's called out this safety car. Unfortunately, we've missed it. We've missed the pit entry. Vettel's come in for what I assume is a pit stop onto the hard compound tyre. But we missed our chance. We were already past the last corner, so we have to go around again. And we've actually caught up to the safety car train, but we'll still come in under the safety car. We won't get the same advantage that Vettel has got for that free pit stop, because I spent pretty much half a lap there behind the safety car at that really slow pace. But my thinking is we may as well still take the free pit stop, because everyone else who is on mediums, they have to go longer in this race, because it's not worthwhile. They can't go to the soft compound and go to the end. So the only other compound they'll go on is hards. But if you're on the mediums, you may as well use the remaining, 6, 7, 8 laps that you've got of those tyres left. But for me, for Vettel, for all the soft tyre runners, it might be worth to come in under the safety car, because the softs were only going to go 2 more laps, and that was my thinking. So we have pit under the safety car. We've not gained the same advantage Vettel has, because we're now actually what is technically last place in this race now, as the rest of the drivers have all DNF. So we're 17 of 17, so it looks a bit doom and gloom, but we are going to the end of the race, as is Sebastian Vettel, as are a few other people who have come onto the hard tyres. But you'll notice I've gone on to the mediums, because I reckon we can take them to the end, because the planned pit stop from the softs to the mediums under normal circumstances was lap 9, the lap I've come out on these medium tyres. So, and we'll be under the safety car for another lap at least, so going slower, not wearing out the tyres. So, according to the engineer and the strategy screen at the start of the race, there's no doubt we should be able to make it to the end. It's only, Vettel's gone on to the hards because he's had to do that extra lap, and maybe Audi are worried about the tyre wear. Maybe off the back of Bahrain, we should also be worried about the tyre wear, but I've gone for the risk because we missed the opportunity to pit when Vettel did. So we've taken this calculated risk of we didn't get the same advantage as Vettel, so we'll try and make it up by going on a softer compound for the rest of the race, and hoping I can try and catch back up to him, and then ultimately try and just defend with track position, because now I think there is a good chance myself and Vettel and others might be in a chance of some high positions, because of all those people still on medium, still yet to pit, and we've all bunched up now. That's the major difference. So we've gone green again, and racing can commence on to lap 10, and we've got to try and get ourselves out of bottom place, P17, as we now go down the inside of Nico Hulkenberg. The first time we've raced him at all in this game, on his return to the F1 grid with Aston Martin, and get ourselves up into P16. We've got plenty of slower cars in theory that we should be able to overtake. Stroll, Lawson might be a bit more challenging, the Andretti Honda, to be fair, there, because Andretti have actually looked pretty quick. And also in this pack is my teammate Tsunoda, who you may remember, had that damage, and he actually did pit early on if he didn't catch that. So he's already made an extra stop through this race. Probably has another one to go, because he went from mediums to the medium tyre. So a long day ahead for Yuki, unfortunately, as we make easy work of Lance Stroll, just showing the lack of downforce that the Aston Martin team have at the moment. But now we come to Lawson, might be a harder person to overtake, but in a straight line, potentially could get something done into the hairpin. We've got a lot of cars bunching up. Ocon looks to be holding up Tsunoda, so there might be some moves going on there, and can we catch some people napping and go for some multiple overtakes? And meanwhile, even further up the road, you can see on the mini-map that maroon dot. That is Sebastian Vettel in the Audi, but ahead, Tsunoda going for a move, like I said, on Ocon. Can we try and copy him? But we're doing the mirror. We go on the left-hand side. Tsunoda's on the right-hand side, overtaking Ocon. I'm overtaking Lawson. Tsunoda and Ocon, though, they're still side by side. Tsunoda hasn't finished the move off on the Porsche Williams. And also, we've got Vettel getting caught up with Magnussen, I think that is. But we overtake Ocon. He gets slowed up in the last turn by our own teammate. And then we make light work of Tsunoda up into P12. So already showing the medium compound switching on a bit quicker, I think you can see, compared to others on worn medium tyres, that is. Obviously the new set switching on a lot quicker. And then also for Vettel on the hards, I mean, I from personal experience know the hard tyres take a couple of laps to really switch on, but at the moment just focusing on trying to get the move done on Magnussen, as the Porsche Williams gives me a bit of a surprising battle, to be fair, on the exit of that long left-hander in Sector 1, but we finally get past, and now stuck behind, well, not Vettel really, it's more Ricciardo. Ricciardo with a 5-second penalty. I think he got caught up in that pile-up situation. He's taken Vettel wide, and that is a gimme. Ricciardo's been holding myself and Vettel up for about a lap there, getting stuck in each other's dirty air, but we're going to try and make quick work of Ricciardo if we can into the hairpin, taking a leaf out of his book, late on the brakes on the inside. And meanwhile, Magnussen has a go at Sebastian Vettel. The Porsche actually dive bombed the Audi car. Unbelievable, as we can't overtake Ricciardo, and now Vettel's come back at this. It's all kicking off. Ricciardo managed to dummy me, but we went too deep and he basically switched back me, and Vettel then had a great run and nipped down the inside, momentarily was ahead. We've managed to just secure P10 at least, but we have to go again on Ricciardo, but he's so slow through these turns. I don't know what's going on, either tyre wear or a car issue, I don't know, but he's suspiciously slow through those two corners. So we're going to try and go round the outside, and in a straight line he's not too bad, to be fair, with that Renault PU in the back of his car on the inside, take him wide a little bit to finish off the move, and he actually makes his own mistake then, probably showing tyre wear is maybe the big factor there for Rick Bobby, and Vettel gets ahead up into P9, and now it's myself and him in clean air, and we're just driving the laps until these guys all make their pit stops. A first round of pit stops for a couple of people, including my teammate and the likes of George Russell and Gasly, Piastri, Leclerc and Drugovich now coming in on lap 16, and Leclerc and Drugovich come out both ahead of George Russell. So the overcut has worked here at Shanghai for those two drivers. Russell was ahead, remember, in the lead of this race, ahead of Leclerc and Drugovich, and now both of them are ahead of Russell and ahead of, obviously, Sainz, Albon, Gasly, Lando and Piastri, who are all behind in that order. I think, though, to be fair, I think Lando Norris has jumped Piastri and split the two McLarens, and ahead of Leclerc now is, well, Nico Hülkenberg, of all people, flying very high in P4 in an Aston Martin on hard tyres. He's going to the end of the race, as is Liam Lawson in third place at the moment for Andretti Honda. So Andretti are in a podium position right now. There's still, don't get me wrong, a long way to go in this race, but all four of us, because that includes Vettel and myself, all four of us are going to the end of the race. So all of a sudden, having both been knocked out in Q3, once again, myself and Vettel just keep on meeting each other, battling for race wins at the sharp end in these last 3 seasons of this series, as we now watch Leclerc overtaking Hülkenberg. Pretty easy going in a straight line for the Silver Arrow. He's up into P4, and I'm assuming he'll go chasing after Lawson pretty damn quickly, and then he's got a job to do to try and bridge about 9 seconds to Vettel and myself. But the thing is, he's on, what, 5, 6, 7 lap younger hard tyres, so that's the risk both me and Vettel have taken is that we've gone for track position, knowing probably the likes of Leclerc, Drugovich, as he makes an aggressive move from left to right to get the German and the Aston Martin, get himself up into P5 and keep on the back end of his race rival this entire time, Leclerc. You know, these guys probably will bridge that gap because of that tyre life advantage. We just got to hope that maybe Lawson here can put up a fight. Will the Andretti hold up Leclerc? He defends the inside. Leclerc will have to go the long way round, and this is going to be a really neat overtake from the man from Monaco up into P3 straight away, wasting no time at all, and so does Drugovich, wasting no time. So both of them clearly want to get moving and want to chase after myself and Vettel. It's a question of will they, and also for me specifically, will my mediums hold out in the same way that Seb's hards do? Potentially not, but that's the risk we've taken to make sure we're ahead of Vettel right now and have that track position, have that extra car, that extra hurdle that they're going to have to overtake before getting to me. Meanwhile though, as I've been talking about all that, there's action galore going on. Hulkenberg and Lawson side by side, behind Russell and Sainz side by side, and right up there, both their gearboxes, is Alexander Albon as well. So we've got a five-way battle, those four cars so close together. Hulkenberg has managed to overtake Lawson. He's up into P5. Russell has gone from defending Sainz to overtaking Lawson, and now he's up into P6, and Lawson's really struggling. It looks like the Andretti might have a car issue, because he's going very slow now compared to before, and Albon is the one looking to make the overtake. So Sainz really lost out on all of that, because he was actually attacking Russell at one point, and now he's 3 positions back from him, but he himself might have a go, and yes, he will nip down the inside. I think there's definitely an issue for Lawson. He's going way too slow for there not to be an issue, which is a real shame, to be honest, because he was doing so well, and maybe actually would have put up more of a fight versus Leclerc if there wasn't an issue. Maybe the issues began ever since Leclerc closed up to him. But speaking of the Mercedes, Leclerc's teammate Russell is making light work of Hulkenberg and gets up into P5. Probably was always going to happen, to be honest, with the pace of the Mercedes car, and now he can try and push away and try and maybe chase after Drugovich, but I think the damage has already been done by all this traffic, because there's about 5 seconds between them. But Sainz, he'll be looking to try and get back past Alexander Albon, and you've still got Lawson struggling so much, trying to defend from Gasly. The Frenchman goes right round the outside of the youngster and gets up into P10, and all of a sudden Lawson's gone from P4 to outside the points. That is a shame, and that is how cruel Formula 1 can be sometimes with mechanical issues. Meanwhile, towards the sharp end, well, not quite the sharp end, but for P3 and 4, Drugovich, is he going to go for a move for Leclerc? Is he going to spoil the Mercedes party? Well, I thought Leclerc was going to be the one to spearhead the charge towards Vettel and myself, but no, it's going to be Felipe Drugovich. The Brazilian gets up into P3 with Repsol Haas, and now will try and push on himself. Will Leclerc come back in, though? There is a second body DRS here down the pit straight. Will he go for the move on the inside? He does. Drugovich has to defend and swoops across in confidence and does defend and stays in P3. The gap now is down to 4.5 seconds, so that gap is coming down, and what might also be coming down is the race position for Lando Norris in the Red Bull. The Red Bull's going real slow into turn 1. Sainz is past, Gasly is past. That's going to hurt. His former team is through, and the puff of smoke comes out the back of that Red Bull car as he has to park up. It's a second DNF in 3 races for Lando Norris and his new team. It has not been the fairy tale beginning to his new Red Bull career. And you know what? That is a bit of concern for us, remember, because Red Bull are powered by Honda, the same power unit we've chosen with this Lotus partnership. So that is a little cause for concern. I can't lie. The fact he's had 2 failures in 3 races, or, it might be actually a good omen that he's taken all my bad luck of power unit failures. I don't know. But meanwhile now, we cut back to the live racing action onto lap 25, and Lawson and Hulkenberg just can't get rid of each other. And looks like Lawson's car has come back to life. That issue has worked itself out. We know that can happen with AI mechanical issues, and so Lawson is once again in the points. So that's at least good. He deserves at least 1 point, I would say, for his troubles today. But back to the task at hand, you can see very clearly, visually, Drugovich Drogovic and Leclerc in the same camera shot and on the same bit of tarmac as myself and Vettel. They have bridged the gap. Those 7 or 8 laps of fresher hard tyres are coming to roost. I've just got to hope the medium tyres hold on, and I'm hoping that Vettel will actually be a bit of a hurdle for Drogovic or Leclerc. We've only got a lap and a half left to go, if that, to be honest, on lap 27 as we go into the final sector. We are so close to pulling off a fantastic win this would be from outside the top 10. To be fair, Vettel's also going to be chuffed with getting from where he was up onto a podium position. Both of us have done very well at the strategy and playing our cards right in this Grand Prix. And now there's just one lap to go as we get down to these final corners on the second last lap. Vettel's getting very close to me, and you'll notice the rear end is stepping out, and I'm going quite cautiously into some of these major traction zones because my tyres are shot. You can see on the heads-up display when you see the onboard, it's brick orange on the tyre wear indicator, and all these long corners aren't helping, and Vettel is on the inside of us. Oh no, on the last lap, is he going to steal this away from us? We're coming back at him on the inside. This time we don't make the mistake we made earlier by going on the curb. We're going to try and go wide, and Vettel gets on the grass. The rear end steps out for the Audi, and he might just invite the Haas to overtake him. Was that an uncharacteristic error from the man who's been so consistent in these last 2 seasons of career mode? Vettel does make a mistake. He's down to 3rd place. Drogovic all of a sudden up to P2, but now Drogovic makes a mistake. He's gone wide. It's all kicking off in this final lap of the Chinese Grand Prix. What is going on? Everyone can't keep the car on the black stuff in a good orderly position. We're still in 1st place. Vettel now is back up into P2. Drogovic down to 3rd once again, and frustratingly Leclerc is just a passenger watching this fight happening in front of him. We've got one long straight ahead of us, and then the final few corners. This is it. Once again, myself versus Sebastian Vettel for the race win here at Shanghai on the return to the Chinese Grand Prix. Vettel's up into 1st place. We have to get back down the inside. He's locked up, though, and actually held up Drogovic as well. But look at the rear end. We've got no grip. We go to the left to defend the inside line. Vettel tries and goes round the outside and to the line. We're going to somehow hold it for 1st place as Drogovic steals 2nd place. We've managed to hold it through the final couple of corners to get our 1st race victory of the season. The 1st for Lotus in their return to Formula 1. We channeled some Jim Clark there, stayed calm, stayed cool, and got the win.
Might not have been the finest race in history, but there's no question it was a critical win. What do you think it was today, Ants, that gave them the edge over the competition?
A reliable car, that was the most important factor here. This was a real battle of attrition, and you could tell those at the front were trying to find a balance between running their outright pace and taking care of the car to reach the end.
The faces on our top 3 look so incredibly happy as they make their way up to the podium. A much-deserved victory and a brilliant performance from them all.
In the words of Sebastian Vettel, those tyres were dead. They were done. How did we hold that through? We almost didn't. Vettel had a look around the outside of the final corner. It was a good thing we chose to go to the left rather than stay on the racing line, because otherwise he really would have made it very difficult for us in the final bend. And instead, he actually undid his own good work because he went too wide, and Drogovic on fresher tyres got the exit and got 2nd place on the run to the line. Amazing driving from the young Brazilian to get up into 2nd place. Vettel, though, on the podium still. Both myself and him outside the top 10, getting onto the podium. And you can see why maybe myself and him have been entangled together and consistently at the front of this F1 landscape for the last 3 seasons. We have been the pair of most consistent drivers, I feel, over the last 3 seasons. And this is why some clever strategy decisions from both of us to get up there. But Leclerc, he'll be a bit frustrated maybe. I mean, he did get his teammate after losing that 1st first place, but only 4th place for him. But all of that in the Constructors' Championship mean that we are level with Mercedes in the standings. Still early days though, so not going to read too much into it, but the fact that Audi is so close as well, it's looking like a pretty juicy battle. And to be fair, Repsol Haas, they've not had 2 drivers going at full pelt. Bottas has had a very unlucky season so far. You know, once he's able to get some luck, both Haas cars will be a threat as well to all 3 of our teams. And then who knows also about the teams below, McLaren, Red Bull, even Ferrari. I think, you know, they had a devastating day today with a double DNF, but they are getting quicker and quicker, and they just need to actually get it over the line. But in the Drivers' Championship, following that race win, we are ahead by 9 points to Vettel, Leclerc 2 points back, and then a further gap to Drugovich. But it is early days, so not going to get ahead of ourselves, but it's good to book in a win, and great to do it for Lotus for the first time on their return to Formula 1. Guys, that was a really, really good return to the Shanghai circuit, I must say. A lot better than I think F1 2021. I think these cars really did produce some better racing around Shanghai. So if you have enjoyed it, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.